see this our native land. We pledge our lives to thee. Here every creed and race find an equal place, and may God bless our nation. Here every creed and race equal place, and may God bless our nation.
Almighty God, most beneficial and merciful, Creator of the universe and embodiment of divine wisdom and light, we come before you with thanksgiving and praise. May your will be done in our nation as it is in the heavens. Please bless our political leader, party officials, activists, and all the people of Trinidad and Tobago. Give us the grace to always see good, be good, and do good, and the courage to serve the people. Protect us as we stand against injustice and iniquity, and inspire our endeavors to find the right solutions to the problems that are affecting our fellow citizens. Grant that we may always work together with humility and respect for the greater happiness of all and the honor and glory of our country. Amen. From the political capital, this is the United National Congress Virtual Report 2022.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the UNC's Virtual Report platform. I am Councillor Vishan Mohammed, the proud representative for the Burgesses of the Electoral District St. Mary's Carlsonfield, and together with my colleague from the Kuva-Tabaki-Talpa Regional Corporation, Councillor John Lizama, we will be taking you through this evening's program. We have this evening a battery of speakers who will bring to your attention the real national issues that is affecting you as we continue to hold this wicked, incompetent, uncaring PNM government to account, and we prepare Trinidad and Tobago to return a government that will care for you under the esteemed leadership of the Honorable Kamla Prasad Bisesa and the United National Congress. There's a quote by John Quincy Adams that I came across not too long ago. The quote stated that if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a leader. Our leader has definitely inspired many young persons to do so. This evening, this will be evident in our lineup of speakers. First up, we have the distinguished Member of Parliament for Kumuto Manzalina to open the batting. Dr. Rai Ragber is a well-respected member of the medical profession and a stalwart of the United National Congress. At any party event, you are certain to see him at the helm of the medical tent. Please welcome to the UNC virtual platform, Dr. Rai Ragber.
People's revolution, my brothers and sisters. Let's all walk together as one. This revolution
revolution is about restoring our democracy. And this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution.
Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, or should I say Chairman, for that wonderful introduction. To my colleagues at the head table, good evening and God's blessing, especially to my esteemed political leader, Kamala Prasad Bisesa, the best Prime Minister this country ever had. A long and healthy life, my leader. Tonight, I am pleased to address all persons watching and listening to this virtual meeting. My friends, I want to share something close to my heart. I know 15 minutes is not good enough for me, but I will try. It's taken from the book of Deuteronomy, chapter 20, verse 1. Just like the Israelites, we sometimes face overwhelming opposition, whether at school, work, or even at home. We can even feel outnumbered and helpless. God bolstered the Israelites' confidence by reminding them that He is always with them and that He already saved them from the potential danger. We too, my brothers and sisters, can feel secure when we consider that God is able to overcome even the most difficult odds. Our leader's mantra, put God in front, and that's what she does. Especially now, my friends, my brothers and sisters, at this time of COVID-19, we need Almighty God, and we need a leader like Kamala Prasad Bisesa. My friends, I, Dr. Rai Ragbir, am a COVID-19 vaccinator. I have taken my vaccines and my booster, and I've been humbled by the frontline healthcare workers, their hard work and resilience during this pandemic. Your support has been unwavering, and it has been a personal sacrifice for them. Without their families, without any added salaries, without any time off, sadly, some of them got sick and they lost their lives. The stress of seeing so many sick persons and even large numbers of persons who died will be etched in your minds and hearts, especially for a long time. And my friends, you know who that will affect too? The healthcare workers, the young doctors and nurses and other healthcare professionals. My friends, I wanted to switch to COVID-19. Yes, as we lax rules and regulations, we still need to be reminded, and I have to put my doctor hat on, you are still at risk of getting COVID-19. You still risk to be hospitalized, yes, and you can die. We have had an important gentleman, a friend of the UNC, Dexter Stewart, 61 years old, who passed on today. He's with the Lord. And I dare say condolences to his family and all his friends and his patrons. And to all those people who have lost their loved ones, again, condolences to the families. You know, the families that have been left behind have been shattered emotionally, financially, and insecure about their own future. And I dare say every one of us have been touched by someone having COVID or a non-COVID related event. The Prime Minister said on Saturday in his media briefing that 700,000 persons had been vaccinated and approximately 300,000 persons had been exposed to COVID-19, so they gained natural immunity. My friends, that is nothing to boast about. The Rowley-led government has failed in so many ways, and I will mention a few for which I'm certain some of you may fall in that category. One, lack of seriousness of the COVID-19 early in the game. When it was addressed in the Parliament and Senate, the government did not take it seriously. So now, what are we celebrating? 3,738 persons' souls have died in Trinidad and Tobago. Today, 4 persons died, and one of that is the famous entertainer Blacks. Delayed procurement of vaccines. This government only wants vaccines donated. The latest is vaccines for the 5 to 11 years old, which is coming from a European country. Why didn't they purchase vaccines? And they're still not purchasing vaccines. And the whole vaccination process was a problem from the onset. 3, an inability to secure COVID medication. That has been addressed in the Parliament, in the lower house and upper house by many members alike. Delay of testing, the inability of testing kits that should be rampant throughout. And that would include availability of masks, the medical equipment, and PPEs, the protective suits, and lack of proper management of persons in home quarantine, which was in the thousands. And my friends, I'm here to talk about the complete abysmal failure of the parallel healthcare system. This Rowley-led government and Minister of Health has failed the citizens of this country. Yesterday in the daily newspaper, the government indicated that the Arima Hospital would be decommissioned for non-COVID patients. You know, PNM, the acronym, promises never materialize. They say one thing, but the question is the timeline. It takes the vision of a leader, a fantastic leader, Kamala Prasad-Bisasa, to construct the Couva Children's Hospital. And look how many years it took to open that hospital. Totally outfitted, and was made lies after lies why that hospital could not be made. But it made sense to use it for COVID. Now, in the decommission, I wait with a bated breath when that COVID hospital, Couva Hospital, will be used for non-COVID patients, chronic disease patients. At the same time, my friends, I'm just asking, one of the hospitals used for COVID was Augustus Long Hospital. I'm just asking, will it be used for the friends and families of the PNM? My other concern in that article was the closure of the field hospitals at Jean Pierre Complex, Couva Hospital, and also you have the National Racket Center as a step-down facility, UTT, in Valsain and in Debe. The question is, you had staffing, you have medical equipment. What the public wants to know, what is going to happen to all of that? My focus today is in that healthcare system. Remember, my friends, sickness and death has always been part of our lives. And don't be misguided, my friends. As a medical practitioner, more persons continue to die from non-COVID related cases. We have gotten accustomed to attending funerals of friends and family. We keep hearing the phrases, he passed on, may he rest in peace, he went to the Lord. My friends, even cases where patients survive, family members remember the horror of their loved ones getting so sick to the point of death, and sometimes they can't get a phone call or talk to the loved one. And those who passed on in the last breaths, you couldn't hear a peep from the healthcare people that would have transferred that information. You know, I'm going straight on to the Ministry of Health website because I know time is going. You know, when you go on the website for our Ministry of Health, you see something called the National Strategic Plan for the Prevention and Control of Non-Communicable Disease of Trinidad and Tobago. And it states 2017 to 2021. But wait, I thought this is 2022, as you can see there. I'm wondering if the Minister of Health has no plans for healthcare for 2022 and beyond. The main focus of such a plan is dealing with NCDs. That is, my friends, heart disease, diabetes, cancer, cerebrovascular disease, that's stroke, asthma, and chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. A key role of the Ministry of Health is to ensure public health functions are developed to promote and protect the health of the population. These persons who fall within this category, they have been waiting for heart surgery, they've been waiting for angiograms, they're waiting for dialysis, they're waiting for elective surgery. And my friends, these procedures have been delayed. And because that more people got sick, and as a result, they die from non-COVID related fatalities. When we look at delayed medical treatment, people were afraid to go to the doctor. That phobia, yes. The phobia when they were routinely to go to the clinic or when they became ill. Now, especially we found this in the elderly during the COVID, that they may have some comorbidities. and the family and the relatives tell them, don't go to the hospital. If you go there, they'll put you in the white tent, and you don't have COVID. And you'll get COVID in the white tent, and then you'll have to go hospital, and then you may die. So you know what, brothers and sisters, they did stay home. Some did recover. Unfortunately, some got more ill, and they died. And those cases has not been recorded as it should be recorded. So what was happening as well, most of the outpatients, or all the outpatient clinics at the health centers and at the hospitals, they had rescheduled appointments. Months and months, and I'm sure everyone that's hearing this, they know of the family and friends that fall in this category. And imagine a cardiac clinic appointment is once a year, and that went on to more than a year. So, brothers and sisters, when you don't have a face-to-face consultation with your physician, you're unable as a patient to explain symptoms to your doctor. There's no physical examination, so that means there's no assessment or deterioration of your disease. You can't discuss about your medication, that it's not working. You can't discuss about side effects of the drugs. You can't ask the doctor, when can I get a blood test done? I have severe back pain. Can I get an X-ray or a CT scan? And sometimes your symptoms have progressed more than what it should be, and you have no avenue to discuss. But I'll tell you, one of the things that took place is that people would call you at home from the clinics. How are you going? You all right? No. In 2021, 2022, Trinidad and Tobago, we're not ready for that. We're not a first world country. Many people don't have the facility to check your urine analysis, check your pressure, check your sugar, check your oxygen level. And because there are people got more stress, more mental health issues, more depression, and just as well, we saw increasing suicide. Imagine people need to get welfare grants signed, and if you don't see the doctor, who is going to sign it? Many people could not access the CDAP. You notice I'm itemizing. There's so many other issues. Many people got sick, and they couldn't go to the doctor. They don't have money, they lost their job. So they go to the pharmacy, they self-diagnose, and they treat. But sometimes you got more ill, and you died. The COVID-19 pandemic has had a substantial impact on primary care globally and placed an unprecedented burden on healthcare systems. I applaud this effort to conduct phone consultation, but as I said, we're not ready for this. You know, my friends, for the last 3 months, I've done a survey that all medications, without fail, just like food, have increased by more than 25%. So basic Panadol, sugar tablets, heart tablet, asthma medication has gone up. So people, I'll tell you what they do. They stretch the medication, they skip a day. On some instances, they don't take medication. So what that means, they get sick, they end up in hospital, and die, non-COVID related. Yet the government and the Minister of Health boast about a fantastic parallel healthcare system. It has failed. It failed miserably. So when these people don't have money, it's a case of, should I buy food or should I buy my life-saving medicine? That's the question. The cost of medication has pushed persons below the poverty line and continue to do so. One of the things in my limited time, again, I want to mention is the avenue for medication. There is a large counterfeit market of medication, like everything else, a Michael Kors bag, a Calvin Klein bag, or whatnot, but counterfeit medication. So when the patient's using the same medication, realize the sugar not getting control, the pressure, the heart medication, the asthma medication, beware. It may be that the drugs may be false. And a big business, lucrative business, is suitcase traders that are actually taking orders from business people to bring in these counterfeit drugs. Yet, we have on Frederick Street, chemistry, food, and drug division that's supposed to do quality testing. But my friends, I will teach you something. It's shameful. They can't test. They have no facility for testing these counterfeit medication. So we don't know what our patients, our citizens are taking. And the same thing, I have 1 minute again, I must mention to you about something called we buy medications online. But I must remind you as well, there are numerous illegal websites selling medication without valid prescription, and it has also been an avenue for distribution of counterfeit drugs. So this internet pharmacy violates legal professional and ethical standards and endangers patient safety. I will conclude by mentioning briefly about the COVID committee that was formed by this government. And as a practitioner, I'm hurt that the salient points of the frontline healthcare workers who day in, day out, they work tirelessly with a shortage of equipment, shortage of PPE, a lack of drugs, and all this is an indictment on the Minister of Health. And in my last 10 seconds, all I ask in Minister or the government, give the healthcare workers, the frontline, give them a little get extra money in the pay packet. I thank you, God bless you, and God bless the political leader, Kamla Prasad-Bissessar.
As one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy. And this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution.
Come on, people.
Come on.
Come on, people.
Let's move.
Come on, people.
Come on.
Come on, come on, come on, come on.
People crying out for justice.
Some of them crying out for freedom.
You see why the PNM is a failure and a disgrace to the population. We were fooled. Everything was COVID. Dr. Rai, we thank you for that discourse. Thank you again, Dr. Rai Ragbir. Our next speaker is a dynamic young woman who started her political career as a local government representative. A passionate advocate for development within her constituency, she currently serves as the opposition shadow minister for the environment, as well as gender and child affairs. Please welcome to the UNC virtual platform, the Member of Parliament for Maruga Tableland, Michelle Benjamin.
Dictatorship. This is the people's revolution.
Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, come on, come on, come on, come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, come on, come on, come on.
The people's.
Good night to my UNC family on all the virtual platforms. Thank you for joining us here for another virtual report. I want to acknowledge all the speakers here tonight. I also want to acknowledge our esteemed political leader, the Honorable Mrs. Kamla Prasad-Bissessar, the woman who will be charged in leading this country forward and rebuilding this nation. I want you to join me here tonight in giving her a virtual round of applause. This is a very critical time in our country's history. I know many citizens feel a sense of hopelessness and helplessness due to the corruption and incompetence of this Rowley-led administration. The neglect is apparent in every sector. This weekend, we were cautioned to control ourselves as we were granted the gift of restoration of our so-called freedom. But let us think about what is freedom. Freedom to me means feeling safe. Lord knows that basic right we as citizens of Trinidad and Tobago have lost. Well, for normal citizens like me and you, not for those in government at the moment, they feel safe. I joined my community in St. Mary's as we mourn the untimely death of Carlon Roberts. This has resulted from senseless shooting on Saturday night in Saunders Street. My heart aches as I have raised the issue of increased criminal activity in my constituency and in the community of St. Mary's. My heart aches for us as a community and a constituency, that we had to see the loss of our brother, Mr. Carlon Roberts. By extension, the community, the national community of Trinidad and Tobago. We need a crime plan. We need a plan from this government that has no plan. Trinidad and Tobago, what would we do? A plan must be put in place to treat with crime, and a crime plan that would put this current minister and hold him accountable. This minister that says that he's not responsible for our safety. Crime is out of control. Unemployment is out of control and on the rise at the moment. The cost of living is out of control. Every time you visit the grocery, something goes up. And while everything is spinning out of control, those with the power to bring change and to bring healing is sitting back and is doing nothing. All we get is words and pressers and press conference from this Rowley-led administration. We need action, urgent action, backed by a plan with commitment. Last week, my brothers and sisters, the Honorable MP Rodney Charles brought a motion to address this government's failure to curtail the current crime surge. The news is filled with articles and stories of criminal activity reaping havoc on our dear nation, and yet this government is not taking action. Tonight, I want to call on this current minister to visit my constituency and hear the cries of my constituents. Come and listen to people who have been begging for the reopening of the St. Mary's Police Post. The St. Mary's Police Post was closed in 2021, and as soon as this had happened, the spike in crime would have increased. Despite numerous petitions and letters, we have gotten no feedback. I am calling on this minister to hear the cries of my constituents. Under this PNM government, violence and mayhem is the real pandemic, and bloodshed and violence is the new normal. Everyone in our nation is living in fear, from Murga Tablan to Toko and Sandy Grande. Our pensioners are fearful for their lives. Our women are afraid to go outside. Shopkeepers are afraid to run their businesses. Criminals have taken over our dear land, and yet this government is doing nothing. It is clear that every time this PNM government is in power, crime is on the rise. Who is benefiting? It is clear that this PNM government don't care about our national safety. Did you ever hear they say anything that would curb crime? Are they addressing our social ills in society? But every time you question this administration, they get like the raging bull. They get angry. They get furious. They lash out at me and you. They lash out at the media. But that will not change what is coming their way. Citizens of Trinidad and Tobago, we need to remove this government. Their mentality towards us is wicked. They have no good intentions towards this country. The PNM administration has buried their hands and their heads in the sand. They have no solution. We need proper governance. We need a crime plan. We need someone that hears the cries of this nation. We need Kamla Prasad Bisesa. And as we review the lifting of the restrictions decided on by King Rowley, because he decided to come weekend and lift the restrictions, did you hear any plans on moving forward? Did you hear any plans about tourism? Where was the plans about the sustainability and the diversification of our economy? Did you hear anything about that roadmap to recovery that our taxpayers' dollars paid for? Did you hear anything? Our economy is crying, and we need some degree of salvation. But that salvation will not come from this PNM government. That salvation will come from returning the United National Congress to power. If the basis of lifting the restriction is to improve the socioeconomic conditions, where is the recovery plan, I ask again? But, my dear viewers, I stand before you as the Member of Parliament from Murga Tablan, and a responsibility I hold dear to my heart. And I believe that every time I get an opportunity to highlight my constituency, I must speak about our poor roads and infrastructure. I will now like to share a video with you.
Residents came out to highlight our concerns with landslip and the condition of our road. Earlier on, where the media would have passed to coming from Donmore Hill, you'd see where the land is caving, where 3 homes are on the verge of being lost and taken away by the landslide. We calling on those in authority and we're asking for them to come in and do what is necessary to fix such problems in our community. In 2018, we had a massive protest that resulted in the fire brigade coming, hosing an elder citizen with the fire hose. Her eye still damaged. We had the MP, the then MP, Dr. Lovell Francis, come in with an entourage of cabinet ministers and made promises that none was fulfilled. Right? So we are here again. 4 years later, we are asking for the relevant authorities to step in and do what needs to be done for our roads.
You could 1 million fire, 6 company will do fixing, trust me. And they have since 1959, so check it. Check 1959 to now, to 2000 to 2020. I live in right here. I go in America, come back, road still same way. You don't fix it. They bring the Prime Minister a few years ago. They take him from Princess Town, come straight down. When they reach, they have a little piece of place struck to about 50, 25 feet. They fix that. And they go in here, and they go in the pavilion with it. But they didn't take him all over Newtown. 6 somebody that village is off of the map. They don't get away, they forget you. 6 somebody this road. Trust me.
Oh, road gonna fix and road gonna fix. What's going on here?
Dr. Simon.
What's going on? This is shoppiness since 2002. That tell you the road gonna fix. They only putting on new pipeline, old pipeline. That is shoppiness. What is really going on here? We know nobody? Eh? Only prayers. You are back now, man.
Yeah, morning people. This road is about almost 3 years now. It sink, I think, but now it's very bad. Whole night vehicles be passing and hanging up on this road here. See there? That spot there, very bad. You know my vehicles be hanging up there. So me and the neighbor assist, we full up the holes. Because they do nothing. They come, they snap, they measure, they do what they have to do. Nothing. So at the end of the day, people will want this road fixed.
Yeah, based on this big hard work what I do here, this thing affected my business here. I can't move with the dust. Plus the vibrating of this vehicle passing here too. My whole wall by the house is cracking up and all kind of jam. And they just can't come to do nothing here. It's a wall we really have to get it. And if we get that, I'm telling you, this whole road will be good.
It is shameful to see the state of our roads, the state of the roads in my constituency, and this is mirrored throughout Trinidad and Tobago. Driving through the constituency is like an obstacle course where you have to swerve right or take a sharp left to avoid potholes, craters. We keep hearing talk about a budget and program to repair roads from both the Minister of Works and Transport and the Minister of Public Utilities. One some months ago with a promise $300 million is already allocated and it come in. And the other, in recent times, said WASA is going to embark on a road rehabilitation project. I said talk, but I want to call on these ministers to print those roads. Let the nation see where the money is going to be spent. I am hereby calling on the ministers of both Works and Transport and Public Utilities to publicly state the names of the roads on the list to be repaired, the contractors, the budget, the project duration, and the budget allocation for such. To be held accountable in this country is really something, especially underneath this PNM government that has no accountability for spending taxpayers' money. Who would be those contractors? And let's not start with WASA and their part in the destruction of the road infrastructure in my country. How long have we been asking for little interministerial communication? Today roads will be paved, tomorrow WASA would terminate, I would say. I won't even say they will come to repair a pipeline. They will terminate the entire road, WASAs. It is not rocket science. My constituents on a daily basis reach out to me about the poor road conditions, which make commuting through the constituency a tedious and dangerous task that often gives headache and all the money in your pocket to the repairman. Let's hope for better, because this government surely don't care. I would like to take this time now to join my political leader and my party in wishing the Baptist community a happy Shouter Baptist Liberation Day. This year, we are celebrating our 71st year of the repeal of the Shouter Prohibition Ordinance, an ordinance that lasted for a period of 34 years. That's 34 years during which the Shouter Baptists were unable to practice their religion. 34 years of being arrested, jailed, and even beaten from practicing their religion. I want our Baptist community to remember that it was in 1996, underneath a UNC-led government, that changed that actually recognized the contribution of this great faith to our great nation, Trinidad and Tobago. As the bell of freedom rings out across our land on Wednesday, know that a brighter day is also coming for our nation under the United National Congress and our leader, Mrs. Kamla Persad-Bissessar. I thank you.
In this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy. And this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution.
Come on, people. Come on, people. Come on, people.
Thank you very much, MP Michelle Benjamin. My brothers and sisters, our next speaker is a true representation of the manifestation of our leader's vision of merging the youth with the experienced. He holds a BSc in Electrical Engineering from the University of the West Indies and a Master's of Business Administration. He is a dynamic entertainer in the chutney and soca industry. He currently serves as the party organizer on the national executive of our great party, the United National Congress. He is the Shadow Minister of Agriculture, Land and Fisheries. He is the Member of Parliament for the constituency of Couva North. Please put your hands together and welcome MP Ravi Ratiram.
I want to hear everybody sing. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one.
A pleasant good evening to our political leader, leader of the opposition, and the most compassionate leader Trinidad and Tobago has ever had, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. My fellow presenters on tonight's UNC virtual platform, members of the media, and to everyone tuning in to this very important live broadcast, a pleasant good evening to each and everyone. As I begin, I ask you to share this live as we, the parliamentary opposition, supported by over 300,000 citizens in this country, continue to hold the government to account and bring sound representation to you, the beautiful people of Trinidad and Tobago. Brothers and sisters, by now the entire country and even persons from across the world would have witnessed that outrageous display of anger and frustration by the Prime Minister during Wednesday's sitting of Parliament. After this latest unprofessional and unparliamentary outburst by the Prime Minister, I shudder to think of how embarrassed our citizens who reside and work in Guyana and Barbados are feeling at this time. Instead of giving our citizens a renewed sense of hope, Prime Minister Keith Rowley brings upon this entire country a renewed sense of shame and embarrassment. In stark contrast to this, I am certainly proud to have my political leader, a person who has always had the respect and admiration of both CARICOM leaders and world leaders, the Honorable Kamla Persad-Bissessar. In the Parliament on Friday, my brothers and sisters, when Mrs. Persad-Bissessar joined the debate on a motion brought by my colleague, the MP for Naparima, MP Rodney Charles, on the government's failure to protect our citizens, the government benches cowered into silence when the leader of the opposition spoke, because she spoke nothing other than the truth. And that truth is, and I quote, Trinidad and Tobago is under siege due to the incompetence and negligence of the present government. This truth seems to always infuriate and offend Keith Rowley as he resorts to publicly mocking our parliamentarian, insulting our citizens, and referring to our women in the most derogatory manner. Brothers and sisters, let us never forget his behavior and consider it against what he shouted at the top of his voice in Parliament on Wednesday. He said, "I am the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago." So while other Caribbean leaders are employing measures to safeguard and protect their economies and their citizens, Keith Rowley has done absolutely nothing for the citizens of Trinidad and Tobago. He says, if you're unhappy here, you're free to go. Well, tonight I want to tell Rowley, in the words of Denise Plummer, we now leaving. My navel string so deep and freedom don't come cheap, we now leaving. We will stand and fight. You will be the one to go. Rowley, you must go. Rowley must go. Brothers and sisters, I want to touch on what is happening with the food prices in our country under this uncaring PNM administration. A Trinidad Guardian article of January 20th, 2022 entitled, "Pay More to Eat, Food Prices on the Rise," sought the opinion of respected economist Dr. Valmiki Arjun, who stated that global prices of several staples surged in the last year, with increase in meat by 18%, sugar by 38%, wheat by 18%, soybean by 54%, and vegetable oil, where 4-liter oil raised from $40 to $45, and in 6 months increased to $90. Imagine 2 kilograms of rice from $16 went up to $24, and frozen goat meat from $25 per pound went all the way to $45 per pound. This is the harsh reality that our citizens have to face. But what has the PNM response? What has that response been, brothers and sisters? Let me tell you. In an article carrying the headline, Rambarat said, "Food prices increase beyond our control." And this has been the mantra of the PNM for the past 7 years. Everything seems to be beyond their control. And what have they done? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. This Rowley-led PNM continues to do nothing to assist with the increase in food prices or even assist our agriculture and fishing industry, our farmers and fishermen, those who contribute to provide food security for our nation. While the PNM gave out interest-free loans and a 2-year moratorium on principal payment to companies owned by their friends, families, and financiers, our farmers have to pay interest on loans. Be it through the ADB commercial banks or credit union, they have to pay interest, brothers and sisters. Whether their crops are stolen before they can harvest or destroyed by flood, farmers still have these loans to pay. The PNM talk about making agriculture tax-free, a tax-free industry. But under this PNM government, they are going to make farmers to pay property tax on all their agricultural property. Imagine from chicken pen, goat pen, even dog kennel, farmers will have to pay on all these structures on their agricultural parcel. But they boast that agriculture is going to become tax-free in all facets, hoodwinking and misleading our population. And this is clearly a government that cannot be trusted. What is going to happen when fuel price goes up? As the government has already warned that it will. Do you think the farmers and fishermen will be able to absorb that cost, brothers and sisters? When farmers have to pay 2 or 3 times the amount to put gas in their boats and diesel in their tractors. So what we see happening, brothers and sisters, is a situation where the price of food import will keep going up, as well as the price of locally produced food crops, meat, fish, eggs. And why? Because after 7 years and hundreds of billions of dollars, Keith Rowley and the PNM have done nothing but blame the UNC for the PNM shameful incompetence. And this incompetence has spread throughout the entire food chain. This is why vendors in the Shogunas market, they have no working toilets. Imagine that. Imagine a female market vendor have to leave her stall unattended, walk across the road to a bar to purchase a ginseng or a shandy, paying no less than $10 just to use the washroom facility. The meat chillers in the Shogunas market have been non-functional for over 2 years now, and these vendors cannot even sell their meat and fish in an air-conditioned environment because none of the 5 units are working. So there is basically several occupational safety and health hazards at the Shogunas market, and the hands of the Borough Corporation remain tied because they cannot get the releases from the government to fix these issues. They continue to starve local government and they starve the Shogunas Borough from the funds that was allocated in the budget. They do not release these funds so the corporation can fulfill the work that needs to be done. Yet, brothers and sisters, Keith Rowley has money to groom golf course and to pay Faris his millions in rent every month, but they cannot fix the Shogunas market. Is that fair, my brothers and sisters? No, it's not. Just last week, brothers and sisters, it was reported that farmers in Barakpur, counting their losses as over 40 animals died because of a rabies outbreak. While we see this new Minister of Agriculture and his 2 juniors going for photo ops, not one of them made mention of compensation to farmers who lost their cattle, which has a value between $7,000 to $10,000. And now these farmers must pay an additional $700 to bury these animals. While these ministers continue to hoodwink and mamagai the wider population, I call on Kazim Hussein tonight to tell us if there will be any compensation provided to these farmers. Now, this rabies outbreak, it did not happen overnight. It was because of the failure of Clarence Rambarat and the PNM administration to properly vaccinate the animals over the past 6 years. It has resulted in animals being at risk while the bat population was increasing. These animals were to receive anti-rabies vaccine every 3 years, but Clarence and the PNM continue to neglect our farmers since they came into office. I spoke with workers at the Ministry of Agriculture, and it was brought to my attention that the anti-rabies unit has been starved of resources to effectively do their job. Necessities like basic personal protective equipment were not being provided. There has been a shortage of support staff to the vets who could have had a proper database with information on animals and their vaccine status so that this event could have been avoided. Just imagine, not only citizens facing a hard time here in Trinidad and Tobago, even the animals are being held hostage by this Rowley-led PNM and their constant lack of compassion and continuous neglect, brothers and sisters. Keith Rowley and the PNM are responsible for every single thing that is going wrong in this country. They said they are in charge and they must be held to account. The PNM has been in charge for the past 7 years, and these shameless PNM ministers still blaming Kamla and the UNC for everything. They promised to fix crime, but after 7 years in charge, crime is now worse than ever in this country. Just last week, brothers and sisters, an honest and hard-working doubles vendor from within my constituency of Couva North, whose family I know personally was buying ice in a gas station a short distance away from where he plies his trade in Piaco, when he was shot and killed in his vehicle by an unknown gunman. Why did this food vendor, this young, devoted entrepreneur, Yansil Siram, had to meet his end like this? And at this time, I express my deepest condolences to his entire family and the community of Perseverance, Karapichaima, and Vancouver North. Where is the justice for his family? How many more innocent lives must be lost, brothers and sisters? Just this morning at 4 o'clock, there was an arson attack on 2 fishing vessels in Cali Bay. And by now, everyone is aware of the constant attack over the years that plaguing the fishing community in central Trinidad. We must never forget the piracy of 2018. And then in 2019, 7 fishermen were murdered. Last year, fishermen faced a similar arson attack, and two fishermen were also murdered at sea. And here in 2022, these heinous crimes continue, brothers and sisters. I have spoken to various stakeholders, and collectively, we are looking at private security for Cali Bay Fishing Facility, because Fitzgerald Hines and the PNM have failed to set up the Coast Guard base and the TTPS riverine unit at Cali Bay, something that the fishing community has been calling for over the past 3 years. Yet, we have a Minister of National Security who will go to Parliament with his manipulated statistics to mislead the country that there has not been a surge in crime. According to the former Commissioner of Police, it is either Fitzgerald Hines is deliberately misleading or he cannot counter. Imagine from October 2021 to February 2022, there have been over 250 murders in this country. Yet Ethelbert Hines wants to convince the country that there is no increase in crime. Imagine his own constituents thought that he was so devoid of goodness, that he plays the smart with foolishness, they decide to give him a sewer bath. It looks as though he needs another one of that, because his constituents have lost faith in him. They have lost faith in the PNM. And my brothers and sisters, I want to say to you that you have the power to create the change in this country. You have the power to put a stop to Keith Rowley and his band of misfits. So tonight I say to Keith Rowley, you have failed this country and failed its people. And if you have a morsel of dignity in you, you will do the right thing and call the elections now. Rowley must go. Long live the United National Congress. Long live our political leader. Long live you, the beautiful people of Trinidad and Tobago. I thank you.
The voice of the people is the voice of God. The tables are turning, your eyes are opening. Welcome to the revolution.
People crying out for justice. Some of them crying out for freedom.
Want freedom. Everybody crying out.
Thank you, MP Ratiram. I want to let you know that Councillor's office are still not being paid. That rent is still not being paid. And I hope, because I am on the verge of eviction from my office, so I hope this new minister take every step to have this corrected, because I'm sure he knows the value of rent. She is fearless. She's a workhorse. I prefer to call her a work zombie. I honestly don't know where she got this energy from, but it transferred to everybody who come in contact with her. In addition to her decades of corporate management experience, our next speaker is a UNC veteran. She previously served as UNC government minister, and today she proudly serves as an opposition senator and UNC deputy political leader. Known for her high energy and no-nonsense approach, she continues to hold the PNM to account in the Senate. Please welcome to the UNC virtual platform the indomitable, the effervescent Senator Jolene John.
Everybody sing freedom, freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Man and woman sing freedom. Everybody sing freedom. Everybody sing. As we move in this people's revolution, my brothers and sisters, let's all walk together as one. This revolution is about restoring our democracy, and this revolution is about stopping this creeping dictatorship. This is the people's revolution.
Come on, people. Come on, people.
Thank you. Good night, everybody. And I want to thank Councillor Zama. His first name is John. It's a pity it's not the last name, but he's brilliant. Thank you for your very warm endorsement. And I will start. It doesn't say beautiful, but it's okay. I'll take that as a given. All right. He spoke about my long years in corporate management. And in management, we have a saying, and I'll just paraphrase, that an organization takes on the DNA of the leader. It means that literally a monkey say, monkey do. So every speaker who preceded me spoke about the leader of the PNM. As a matter of fact, MP Ratiran spoke about his behavior. Can you imagine? When you're talking about a behavior, you'll think it's a toddler. We are talking about some 2-year-old throwing tantrum that they know better. You don't know it's an old hardback man who would have lived 3 score years and 10. Can you imagine that? I think that is bewildering. And I've seen where prior people were not coming out and saying anything about it. It was spoken about in hushed tones because people were afraid of this explosive rage, of it descending on them. But because after Mr. Manning, and I have a little bit of it in my script here, people really, they knew the truth, but they were not saying the truth. And we ended up with a leader who is so intemperate and who is not fit for purpose. So as a matter of fact, I think yesterday I saw where Dr. Winford James of Tobago spoke about the Prime Minister's meltdown, but still he's cautioning him and said, well, if you behave yourself, Popo, maybe you could win the next election. I mean, there's a big hardback man. You understand? That's what he's literally telling him, oh God, please just try and behave now, Prime Minister. Try, you're a man of great intellect. You could have answered Rodney Charles differently. What kind of thing is that? And then today I saw a lady by the name of Denise Deming writing in the newspapers, and she said if the Prime Minister could play, she was playing on an old calypso. We have that Mighty Seifert song, if the priest could play, who is me? She said if the Prime Minister could play, and she started with order, and was referring to the Speaker of the House, asking the Prime Minister. She said she was Prime Minister 3 times, she was on the feet, and she was ignored by the Prime Minister. This is Miss Denning Wood. She said he continued to rant, and she was not inside of the Parliament the way MP Ratiram was or MP Tanku was to face the full force of that fury. I can just imagine. But looking at it on television, she could say, she said the Prime Minister says he continued to his rant in response to a reasonable question. This is not the UNC saying, this is a supposedly independent writer, reasonable question from MP Rodney Charles. For some reason, the Speaker was not moved to ask the Prime Minister to leave the House or to adjourn the sitting. Well, that is a matter for our MPs in the lower house, all right? Because in this instance, the Prime Minister was not asked to just sit down. So she said this disconcerting incident triggered in my mind where she talked about the calypso. And she said, if the Prime Minister can disrespect the Speaker of the House in Parliament, then what do you expect from the other members of Parliament? What do you expect from the young men on the street? What do you expect from the public servants in their daily interaction with the people they serve? If our Prime Minister cannot control his anger and violent behavior, these are her words, then what do you expect of citizens? And what I'm saying, the organization takes on the DNA, and that is why, we could track back all of this insensitivity, the hardness, the harshness, the cruelty towards people back to that same behavior, because everybody feel that they could mimic that behavior, they could treat people as they were like, and that is why they want to impose or enforce feed us that our leader, by being decent and respectful and kind, that she weak. because these are not qualities that are now respected or required in Trinidad and Tobago. Everybody want to play like the priest. So if the priest could play, who is me? So I was happy that Ms. Demning, because before, people will not say it's the Prime Minister, they'll refer to it as a high official. They are not going to say it's the Prime Minister, but she said the Prime Minister. Because had she not said that, you would have forgiven me for thinking it's some poor black youth from some, what do you call it, some of these areas they identify as hotspot. You know, who every Monday morning, the Prime Minister and his then Attorney General used to be bringing bills to just jail them, you know, the one shot, one kill principle that they had engaged in, you know, because all they were bringing were draconian laws to lock them up. I would have thought it was one of those youths who were behaving in that way. You know, so Ms. Deming went in to say she hoped that this speaker had a private conversation. But you see, this has been happening for a long time. And in 2009, then Prime Minister Manning, no less, told us, October of 2009, that when you oppose the good fellow, you know, she said, the minute you oppose my good friend, he gets very, very angry. This was the Prime Minister of the country talking about a subordinate, someone in a subordinate position. He said he got very, very angry. Right? He becomes a raging bull. And he said, you don't know the trouble I've seen for the past 12 years. And that would have been going on since 1987 or thereabouts. So we are into this behavior for 30 years that the country is experiencing and now suffering, because the person who was there acting as this, when the then Prime Minister said, looking at a picture of his then minister, he said, when I look at the picture, I see hate, I see bitterness, I see acrimony, I see animosity, and Mr. Speaker, I see a man completely out of control. And imagine then, you had a powerful Prime Minister standing in the gap. Now you have nobody to hold back this raging bull. So it's we to catch. And that is what everybody who saw that fury, you know, at that time, Mr. Manning could have, what he did, he chased him out of his cabinet and his government at the time. He fired him, but, you know, he lived to fight another day. And there is where we are, because Mr. Manning won this country, as I said, as a sitting Prime Minister. And then there is Mr. Winford James, and of course, Ms. Denning, and she's talking about him having triggers. The Prime Minister having triggers. All of that is in her article, that there are things that trigger the Prime Minister. This is not a child. What triggers you talking about? A child, if you give it a sweet, you got to roll on the ground perhaps, and so on. But you now have to talk about a big old man, that he had triggers, and you have to be mindful about his trigger, not to trigger him, because you will face the full wrath and his fury. You understand? So, ladies and gentlemen, this country has tolerated Keith Rowley and his behavior for much too long, to our own detriment. And that is why today, you know, the Vice President of Guyana could say the country is falling apart. You know, and we have the apologists who are running up, including the Chamber of Commerce for sugar owners, who want to tell it. They say, no, Emperor, your clothes nice. Emperor, your clothes sit down sweet. You're not naked and your bottom is not in the road. You know, that is the kind of enabling behavior that have us in this situation. Because the Vice President of Guyana was wrong. We are not falling apart. We have collapsed. We mash up fine. You understand? This is not the Trinidad and Tobago that we know, and we must say it like it is. We must say it like it is. It makes no sense for us to try to hide behind false pride. This is not what we know. We know about jobs, so everybody. And I'm telling you, this has gone on from government to government. Well, of course, Kamla Prasad Bisesa totally overheated our economy with the amount of jobs. Everybody who wanted a job could have gotten a job. But that is no longer so. You understand? And today I saw where the Minister of Foreign Affairs is going about talking about, well, he's trying, of course, to do what he is supposed to do, because I suppose he and all they want to face the fury. So he was talking about, it is the UNC who is causing this issue. Of course, you know, they have to find a way to bring in the UNC into their confusion. So he said that we are xenophobic based on based on a bill that was presented before the Parliament relative to bringing in more people inside the free movement of human resource within the Caribbean. But we are not against people coming into Trinidad and Tobago. Of course not. You know, the government of the UNC has always been fully in support of Caribbean integration, but you can't come and add to what had been there in this time, in the middle of a pandemic. What have they added? They have added domestic workers and agriculture workers, security guard. We have so many people who are not working, and they are saying open up for all and sundry, for security guard, and a classification called an artisan. What that artisan is really the butcher, the baker, the candlestick maker. So what security guard can do and domestic cannot do and agricultural worker cannot do, that artisan will just come and mop it all up. And we must just sit in the parliament and say nothing. For every time there is an issue, the UNC stands in the gap. The UNC stands in the gap for Trinidad and Tobago. You know, and as I'm saying, we can no longer tolerate this prime minister who just continues to do what he wants, to shout at people, to rant and rave. And as Ms. Demon said, in these times of uncertainty and turmoil, we need leadership that is calm and purposeful. And she said, what I saw in Parliament was a triggered prime minister. She said triggered prime minister. She didn't say triggered baby. She didn't say triggered toddler. A triggered prime minister. Employee of the people of Trinidad and Tobago who felt it necessary to remind us that he's prime minister. Because that's the next thing. You know, you take me past, you're not prime minister. I mean, that is a man who is insecure. That's what, you know. What kind of behavior is that? I am saying that with these rivers that he has opened up, he better make use of it and go and get a bush bath. Because we need a change. This man needs a bush bath. This is not normal behavior. And we must not tolerate it. No, we must not tolerate it. We are much better than that. We deserve better than that. There's no gratitude. You can't rant and rave and shout and scream and say what you want. Everything that comes out of this man's mouth is something that is vile and something degrading. This is not good as a leader for the leader of a country. And I'm saying we ought not to tolerate it, as we are not to tolerate anybody that tells us our leader is not strong, that our leader is not brilliant, because she's not behaving like a raging bull. How is that a requirement of the job of being prime minister? So she must go around saying, no, she doesn't need that. She's confident in who she is. She's confident in her qualification, in her capabilities. She's confident of that. So there's no need to tell everybody you meet, well, you know, I'm a prime minister. You know, I'm a prime minister. What kind of behavior is that? That is a man, as Mr. Manning said, who is totally out of control, and we must not tolerate it. Right? As again in management, Peter's principle, it says, maybe I think this man has been promoted beyond his level of competence, or maybe it's just a question of what we call never see, come see in Tobago. You know, we refer to somebody. But really, it is too much, and we are suffering too much. We are going too far back. So Kamla Prasad Bisesa created over 55,000 jobs. And that was as a result of policy, targeted policies. Everything that was done by her government, it was what was the outcome, the positive outcome for the people of Trinidad and Tobago. That's what it was about. You must have policy that will redound to the benefit of the people. So when he came on Saturday and he said nothing about nothing, one doesn't know how are we going to get back, maybe not even to where we are, but how are we going to revive this economy? We need to know, and I'm sure the Honorable Leader of the Opposition will tell us this evening how we are going to revive this economy. She has done it before. She has done more than she should have done, right? And it is time for us to put Kamla Prasad Bisesa back to work again, not to listen to people and their foolishness, because as MP Michelle Benjamin reminded us on Wednesday is the Shouter Baptist Day, and you know, so they like to preach about the stone the builder rejected. And I know the stone that they are trying for us to reject will become the head cornerstone. So tonight, on behalf of the UNC, I want to join with MP Michelle Benjamin to really commend the Baptist faith, because they too were cast aside. And yet with their humility and their powerful prayers, they had been on their journey. And they tell us always, you know, they always have a word of comfort. And one such word, or one of their songs is, faith carry me through. Faith carry me through. And I know with faith and hard work, we are going to get through. Faith will carry us through. Hard work, I mean, the Bible also says faith without work is dead. But we are there day after day after day, under the guidance, the leadership, the strategic management of Kamala Prasad Bissessar, doing the right things on behalf of the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And I know one day, not too far in the future, the sun will rise again. I thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
Were clear and bright. My walk had purpose. My steps were quick and light. And I held firm to what I felt was right. Like a rock. I was strong as I could be. Like a rock. Nothing ever got to me. Like a rock.
From the political leadership of the United National Congress, like a rock, first woman Prime Minister, first woman Attorney General, first woman to chair the Commonwealth of 54 nations, first woman opposition leader. Welcome KPB Plus, solid everywhere.
Like a rock, a rock.
Thank you very much. Good evening, everyone. We joined you here once again in this virtual, so everyone locked on, thank you for joining and sharing. And I want to congratulate our speakers who were here earlier, Senator Jalen John, MP Michelle Benjamin, MP Dr. Rai, and MP Ravi Ratiram. I want to thank them, give them a round of applause for focusing on the issues impacting on our nation now, and indeed their clarion call. I think JJ hit it on the head. Triggering Rowley. Let's trigger Rowley to call elections now. Get the trigger going. We are ready. And I want to warn you, Rowley, some of your own members are gunning for you. They're coming for you. Your cabinet is imploding. It is falling apart. Not just the country you have destroyed, but your own cabinet is imploding. And if you think are wrong, you better put your spies out there because they're coming for you in this rounds. I just got a call. I got 3 calls just before I came onto the platform. So Rowley, watch out. They're triggering to get you out of office. And you deserve to be put out of office politically and legally so. So thank you again. Each day I know we wake up and we greet the rising sun with hope. There's a stanza from a poem I want to share with you. I studied this years ago when I was doing A-level literature. It's a poem from a great poet, William Butler Yeats, and the name of it is The Second Coming. And I think this is where we are now. What he described in that poem was a nation, and not one, but the world was in chaos. And this is what it says. Turning and turning in the widening gyre. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drawn. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. And this is a line I want to share with you and ask you to remember, that life under the PNM is where things are falling apart and the center cannot hold. The people of Trinidad and Tobago can wait no longer. We must get Rowley out of office now. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. We must ask ourselves, is Vice President Mara Jagdev, is he correct in what he's saying? Is our country falling apart? Nobody was saying that all those years ago when we were in office. Because during those years, we were leading in education. There was at that time, a global financial crisis. That's when we took office, you know. The country had collapsed. The revenue streams were out and gone and done. Joblessness, crime is exactly where we are now. That's where we were in 2010 when we took office. There was a financial crisis, the worst since the Great Depression. But we were able, when we took office, to build schools, to build roads, hospitals. We settled over 100 and something wage negotiations. They have not settled a single wage negotiation. We were able to keep the cost of living low. And how did we do that? You all remember? We took the VAT off over 7,000 food items, basic food items. We were also able to reduce the crime. And I have a draft, we'll show you a graph in a bit, to show you that every time the PNM is in office, what happens? Skyrocketing crime. We brought in foreign direct investment. Under this government, no foreign investment coming in. And what has happened? You have reverse forex leaving the country. In the opposite, reversed. So from where we were then, when we went into office, we were in a bad way, but we were able to sustain. And why? Colleagues have said it. We had the policies, we had the plans, we had a vision, and we had a mission to build our country and the people of our land. We brought in, indeed, constitutional reform. People in local government will know that, where it was that we gave proportional representation in local government to allow for all the men to be selected based on the number of votes that the corporation received per party. So we saw all the men being put to get better representation, I wouldn't say real, but better representation, that in corporations where you would not have had anybody from an opposing party, if the opposing party was able to get enough votes, they would be able to select an alderman. I give you the example of Diego Martin, where for the first time, the UNC was able to get an alderman because of the number of votes we had gained in the Diego Martin Corporation. We were featured regularly in international media. I wonder if you remember that. For the right reasons. For the right reasons. Because now we have a prime minister who throws tantrums. I think that meltdown that happened at the Parliament Saddam on Wednesday with Ronnie Charles and the questions and so on. The man went into a fit. It was a meltdown. It was a tantrum. JJ said it tonight. Senator said it, you know, like a child. He throws these fits of temper, tantrum. So we were, in our time, featured regularly worldwide. And for positive achievements. We were well known as a place that foreign leaders would visit, heads of state would visit. So many visited on our watch. Who has visited since then? Maybe only Delcy? Maybe only Delcy from Venezuela. Huh? And in secret. Well, they tried to keep it secret, but Trinidad is a place, nothing is a secret anymore. You can't keep secrets in this country. And so we were able to get that documentation, the bill of lading when they landed, the sanctioned plane that landed, all those other things. So no world leaders coming here under this man's watch. So we saw that there was progress on our watch on every single front. And now we are witnessing the exact opposite. Nobody then was saying we were falling apart. Nobody was saying the country was falling apart. We were moving forward on all fronts. Today, just look around. Just look around. You don't need surveys, polls, anything to tell you. We have a crime pandemic. We have an economic pandemic. We have an education pandemic. We have a health pandemic. We have joblessness pandemic. We have rising costs of living pandemic. The pandemic is not just about COVID. The pandemic is the Rowley PNM and the government that is leading our country. That is our pandemic. We have to get rid of them. They have to go. We have to go. And then you come on Saturday boasting and praising and patting yourself on the back saying, wow, we did so well. We managed the COVID so well. So we can now open back the country. Did they manage well? You hear lie? That is lie. The COVID report, the Day Commission, tells us clearly that they did not manage well. And others would have spoken. I think Dr. Rice spoke a bit on that. And then on Sunday in our presser, Dr. Rishi spoke on matters relating to that. So look, we are glad the restrictions are lifted. That is something we have been calling for almost a year, more than a year, because people's livelihoods were sacrificed. And those restrictions were not saving lives. I think Dr. Wright and I talked about how people got sicker, they got worse because of the restrictions that they had imposed without any clear plan and vision. So last year, on several occasions, we had outlined our plans for opening the economy. And I'll just quickly touch on some of those, because they have said they will open the country, but they've told us nothing about how they will deal with joblessness. They've told us nothing how we will deal with the suffering people are going through. Nothing. Just open back. And you think it's going to fix anything? Just open back, and that will create jobs, that will create revenue, that will help poor people. It will not. You have to have policies and plans ready to go, but you have absolutely nothing to tell the country about how you will grow this economy again and create the jobs that people need. I talked about before that we need some form of debt relief to get the country going again. Debt relief for citizens and businesses. Loan payments, mortgage payments, they must be halted temporarily. Give people a chance to get off their feet. Banks have made huge profits. I think even today I saw yesterday's news about the huge profits the banks are making. And people, at that same time, they could not find the money to pay loans. But the banks are making profits. Many banks also introduce service charges, penalizing account holders. And so you actually lost money by trying to put it in a bank. You think you're saving in the bank, but you're losing because they increased the service charges. In the meanwhile, they made their profits. I said this is not fair. Citizens and businesses must be given a chance to retool and reinvest in themselves and in their capacity to earn. I also talked about an agricultural stimulation plan, which is now more necessary than ever. Our colleague Ravi Ratiram MP spoke about the agricultural sector. We talked about that, and of course you can find it on our various platforms. An agricultural stimulation plan, more necessary now than ever. They think they could make us forget their mismanagement. They think they could just lift the restrictions and life will get back to normal. Life is good for them, as others have told you and as you know, but for many others, no jobs. Their businesses, people's businesses have closed. I think they said about 6,000 businesses closed in this country. They're going to just get up and start again. You just open your door. You've lost your business. You would have sold equipment. You lost your workers. How do you get restarted? Your savings are gone. Some of them sold assets in order to survive. They're living on salaries because you have not reviewed or negotiated salaries, 2013 salaries in this year of 2022. Price of food, as we are told, going up, rents going up, price of gas to go up, price of water will go up, the price of electricity will go up. What is your plan for people to sustain themselves in these very, very difficult times? None whatsoever. Nothing. I heard nothing about plans to reboot, revitalize our economy, get the economy going, earn revenue, create jobs. And so, do you think opening up, removing restrictions is going to take us back to normal? The pandemic, followed by this Russia-Ukraine crisis, has placed fetters on globalization and has reinforced the need for sovereignty and security in food and in industrialization. So don't come and cry Ukraine-Russia war. What are you doing about it? What plans do you have for us to survive the global crisis that we are undergoing now? If anything, this crisis, the war crisis, has exposed the failure of government for the last 7 years. And what they failed to do, they failed to continue the diversification trust, the policies that we had started. They failed to deal with what we had started to earn revenue in forex, sport tourism, medical tourism. Remember that big stadium we built? And remember the tennis center, the aquatic centers, those were to encourage Sport tourism, man. We could have been a hub, a center for sport tourism because we're building the facilities. Medical tourism, people from the rest of the CARICOM would have come here. But because we built the facilities, the Couva Hospital, Arima, Point Fortin, the teaching hospital in San Fernando, those were not just buildings to sit there, they were buildings to care for our citizens, but also to create much needed foreign exchange earning, to provide jobs. That Couva Hospital alone, Jillian John was very instrumental in getting that done. In fact, all the hospitals, give Jillian a round of applause. She was a main architect behind that. So those structures were put up, as I say, to care for our people, but also to create jobs. Couva Hospital, I said, alone was to provide over 2,000 new jobs. Can you imagine that? Can you imagine? And they did not see it out of spite, malice, and ill will. They failed to open that Couva Hospital. It took a pandemic for them to open it in a limited way as a COVID step-down facility or COVID care facility. Will not open it. 2,000 jobs, can you imagine? Instead, under them, we've lost thousands of jobs. What is it, Taka? Over 120,000. About 120,000 jobs we've lost under this government, and still nothing to tell us how they will create jobs. Because that's what we need. People don't want a handout and a handout. They want to earn, they want to work so they can care for their families. So, the developments now disrupting the world order, we could have sustained if they had continued, but it's not too late, continued the policies. I talked about the sport tourism, medical tourism, industrialization, manufacturing, agricultural production, processing, and development. Remember I talked to you about on the East-West corridor, to have a manufacturing center to create jobs on the corridor. What has happened with all of these policies? Again, spite, malice, ill will, and sheer incompetence. They have done nothing to grow the economy and want to cry now about world order. These world developments have disrupted the world order, as we know, as we knew it, and as we knew it. And it places into question things we have as standard policy, which is the composition of our foreign reserves. We don't think of this on a daily basis, but these are important issues. Our foreign reserves are composed of what? Things in the US dollar. But watch what's happening in the world now. The recent move by Russia and India to trade directly, not through the US now, not the US dollar, to trade directly, raises very serious questions about the petrodollar regime, which is currently in place. So what is happening now is they're trading not in the petrodollar, not in the US dollar. These world powers, that's where it's going. The demand for payment by Russia in its own currency. Russia say, if you want my gas, you know what to do? Pay my ruble. Pay it in my ruble. Or in gold, by the gold standard. Not the mighty US dollar anymore. It's a change in the whole world order, as I say, as we knew it. That is a signal, in my respectful view, to all nations to re-evaluate the relevance of the composition of currency reserves. Meaning, Trinidad and Tobago, of course. Russia has come off the petrodollar, which had been the international convention that sees all trade in petroleum conducted in US dollars. Now several nations are compelled to buy Russian oil and gas in rubles. Today, an estimated 40% of the energy requirements of Europe are being traded in a currency determined by Russia. Not the mighty US dollar anymore, but the Russian currency or the gold standard. It now becomes more urgent that TNT assess not just the current composition of our foreign reserves, but perhaps more critically, the future foreign exchange generation and the growing level of foreign debt incurred by this PNM government. This is urgent. So, you know, to come every Saturday and every Sunday and every time you feel to talk on Tuesday conversations and show your tantrums and so on, tell us what you are doing. We have to reevaluate the foreign reserves. Our food import bill is about $5 billion a year, you know. food import billion. What are we going to do with that? Where are we going to get that foreign exchange when we have no direct forex coming and we're not earning any because we don't have anything of worth to sell? Where will we get it? So, I say it's urgent we look at the composition of our present foreign reserves and look at the future foreign exchange generation and the growing level of foreign debt this government every day piles upon us. I say this because we could boast that when we left the government, we left foreign reserves in excess of US $14 billion. Foreign reserves, when you include the HSF. The impact on Trinidad and Tobago of several countries following Russia's lead and coming off the petrodollar regime must signal to our policymakers that we must change the composition of our reserves, how they're held. This global phenomena will directly affect Trinidad and Tobago, and yet we have heard nothing from the government about a plan to deal with what is in fact predictable fallout of increased costs of multiple products, especially food and grain prices. Our country is already suffering from higher import costs as a result of dramatic hikes in shipping costs, and this was even before the Russia-Ukraine conflict. And through all this, instead of rowdy engaging in international discussions with our fellow CARICOM trading partners, what do we see? We are forced to witness the most divisive, undiplomatic meltdown and rant against one of our own CARICOM partners. Do you know the price of rice has increased, what is it, Taka, about 50%? In 6 months, 50%, and rice is a basic staple of our country. Where do we get the rice from? Not from Russia, not from the Ukraine. It's coming from right here in Ghana, next door, but you want to rant and rave with Ghana. Undiplomatic and divisive leadership from the Prime Minister of this country. Is there any exposure to TNT? Stepping away from the petrodollar regime. Should other countries follow the lead of Russia and others, then what will be the impact on countries like us totally dependent on the petrodollar US, like ours? Our reserves primarily in US dollars. Has this government done any assessment of the likelihood that these unilateral sanctions of the West, now there are many countries in the world who have refused to impose the sanctions. I can name one. Huge country, billions of people living there. India, China, some down in South America, Turkey, many others have not followed the lead of the West with respect to the sanctions. Have we in Trinidad and Tobago assessed the effect of these sanctions that will cause countries to be cautious about choice of currencies, of foreign reserves, and countries of investments? Have we done any assessment? What will be the impact of this move away from the petrodollar? And of course, we don't even have that petrodollar anymore, as we know, once they shut down Petrotrin. We don't even have that coming in sufficient quantities. Now, these are very serious and heavy issues, and I'm sure those economists like Tanku and Tahak and so on will keep us brief further and assess the situation. So it's not good enough, Mr. Prime Minister, to cry about Russia and Ukraine war, because you collapsed the economy in Trinidad long before that. You collapsed the economy here long before COVID. All you do is cry, rant, rave, meltdown, cry, and complain. But not one day have we heard of any plans and policies to boost our country, to create the jobs, to end the suffering. Nothing, not a word of plans. And whilst I'm on that topic, I want to ask, what is the status of the management of our exchange in our country? Our net official reserves at the end of last month stood at the end of February this year, stood at US $6.65 billion. That is 8.1 months of import cover. The drastic decline in foreign reserves from pre-2015, when we were there, the US $644 million from the IMF, over US dollars $1 billion ripped from the HSF, the billions more borrowed from the international market through loans and bonds, the millions in US dollar COVID grants accessed by the government in the last 2 years, all of this place great doubt on the government's handling and management of our foreign reserves. The Minister of Finance, I call on you again, Minister of Finance, to furnish to Parliament a detailed report on the foreign exchange reserves, given declines to our reserves under your tenure. Bring a report to the Parliament and tell us what is the status of our foreign reserves at this time. The need for this accountability is heightened when we consider the potential threat to our reserves should more countries step off the petrodollar regime. This is vital and urgent. Oil price rises. Every time I speak, I say we should be clapping and singing and praying and praising and thanking God. But what is going to happen to us? The fuel subsidy was put in place to give you the benefit of belonging to a country that was rich in our petrocarbon reserves. At this time, there is no feasible way for the majority of citizens to afford an economy where the prices at the pump rise to meet the cost of the imported refined fuel. So what's going to happen? Prices at the pump will go up. Last week, I called on government to disclose the revenue obtained from petroleum to determine if they should contribute to the HSF. The next day, the Minister of Finance spoke in the Senate, and this is what he had to say about revenue from the energy sector. I quote, "We do expect some increase in inflows in fiscal 2022 from the energy sector," end of quote. The minister specifically outlined that for oil, as opposed to a price budgeted at $65, the price they were experiencing was significantly higher than US $100 per barrel. He went on further, Minister Imbert, to state about natural gas prices. Quote, "We are achieving a netback price that is quite a little bit more than budgeted in the October 2021 budget." What does it mean? It means, once again, Minister, too little, too late. You're already out of time. According to the law, you have to file your report in Parliament. I call on the Minister once again to tell the country what is the total revenue from petroleum, which is the gas and the oil, for the first quarter, which ended 31 December. And now we're going to approach the end of quarter 2 on Thursday. So where are we? What is the status of the petroleum revenue? You're bound by law to tell the Parliament, to lay your report in Parliament. Once more, you want to hide in secrecy and hide everything from the country, but you have to account. It is not sufficient for the minister to state he's happy that he has more petroleum revenue. That's not good enough. It is necessary that you account to the population on the amount of revenue generated and the proposed use of this increased revenue. What are you going to do with it, the increased revenue? So you late, tell us how much, and tell us how you intend to spend it. This is critical because while the minister is boasting revenues have increased, we have seen no indication that government intends to borrow less or to take less from the HSF. In fact, government is continuing apace with the sale of your assets, state assets, the threatened divestment of TSTT, of WASA, of the port, fire sales, to get more money, more money. That's what they're doing without accounting to the people. Having benefited from this very substantial windfall, the government is going to settle the billions in VAT, will they? Will they take some of it and pay the billions they're owing citizens their own money for VAT refunds? Again, that can help get the community going, the business community going. Will you settle the VAT refunds? I call upon you to pay the people their VAT refunds now. You cannot take their money and keep it in your pocket to pay Faris rent and to pay all these other people. You can't do that. Give the people their money. It is their money, and you're going to give it to them without interest. Holding their own money, people's money, holding it and spending it years later, and will not pay them their money and will not pay it with interest. You take any money from a bank and do that? Borrow money from a bank? What you're holding is like a loan from citizens that you will not even get interest if you decide to pay them. So I call on government to pay the VAT refunds. I further call on government to pay the debts to suppliers, to the ministries. Are you going to pay all these monies you're owing, the ministries are owing? And you come with some nonsense about EMBD and money and what, and somebody working in the office of the Prime Minister. Look, if people do wrong, let the police deal with it. I'm going to jail. Don't come and complain about that. When will you stop looking in the rearview mirror? You cannot govern and lead by forever looking backwards. Who have done wrong? Take them away, lock them up. I don't care. That is the law of the land. If somebody did not comply with the law, fine. But you talk about these EMBD contractors. But isn't it the same contractors that you complain about that you're giving contracts to? Yeah, financing your party. That is building Balize House. I mean, these people are total hypocrites. And by the way, we had a showdown in Parliament on Friday about whether we could use the word hypocritical in the Parliament. In the end, I was able to use it because it's hypocritical for these people to point fingers and say, you contractor and you, and then you hire the same contractor, you're a blasted hypocrite. That was not correct. I withdraw that word. They are hypocrites. I withdraw the word, please. But sometimes we get upset. I don't want to throw any tantrums like that other guy. So will you pay the debts? Will you pay the VAT refunds? Will you pay WASA and TNTEC the millions owed to them? Or are you going to take this petrol windfall and rent more properties, pay yourselves, increase your salaries and so on, without looking after others? Only yesterday, the central bank governor warned, he's reported to have issued this warning, that foreign price shocks will be coming. I said we have the food import bill of over 5 billion. This will challenge the ability of people to get basic food items. I think MP Ratiram spoke about some of those agricultural matters. This warning from the central bank is that the higher prices will further erode the purchasing power of citizens. The price shocks will be felt like a tsunami by those persons living from paycheck to paycheck or persons living from no paycheck to no paycheck. It's going to tremendously impact the standard of living. Having seen this report, what is the response again of the government? Warning being issued about what's going to happen with already high food prices. The government has not said a word. Nothing whatsoever. Nothing about how they intend to deal with what your own central bank governor has warned. What are your plans to cushion the effects? What are your plans for single mothers and fathers and families, the unemployed, the children who are going hungry? I talked about the price of rice rising 50% in 6 months. At the same time, you have stopped the food hampers. We call on the government again. Please give out the food hampers and the market baskets. People need it now even more than ever. It is important to note about the rice supply from Guyana, and whilst whatever issues may be brewing there between the diplomatic ties, it is time that we have to diversify our sources of supply so we can get food security. So what can we do? I call on government, one, immediately reinstate the food hampers for families and parents as children are now getting prepared to go back to face-to-face school. Bring back these hampers to help the families. Roll out a one-time uniform grant for school children to return to school. It's a serious matter, you know. Serious matter. This way you could help prevent the pain that parents will have from having to decide to buy the school uniforms or to buy food. So bring back the hampers and give this one-time rollout of a uniform grant so children can decently dress themselves to go to school. Provide an enhanced subvention for the school feeding program for children to ensure every child in school will be fed and healthy. That's important again. I've talked to you about the rising cost of food, rising food prices and so on. I've talked to you about the whole situation falling upon the Ukraine-Russia impasse there, the war there. Talked about all that and the impact from our own central bank governor here, saying, listen, look out, prices are going to rise tremendously. So please enhance subvention for school feeding. You did not have the school feeding program for 2 years because the schools were shut. So what you did with all that money? What have you done with that money? Pay more rents? What did you do with all that money? You didn't fix road. Michelle told you about all these, all these craters in that constituency, and we know what the craters everywhere. You didn't fix roads. You didn't build schools. So what did you do with all that money from the school feeding program? So please, we need an enhanced allocation then. When I say subvention, more money to be placed. Midterm review is coming up soon. Budget, midterm review of the budget proposals, and therefore these are some of the things we would like to see included within the changes in the review of the economy. Well, while all that is happening, we have a prime minister in meltdown. Meltdown. Tantrums. The usual tirade. He had to resort to this brand of politics on a national platform, Rowley. He labeled our colleague MP Rodney Charles as a person we know, most decent, honorable, hard-working man, a family man. He labeled Rodney Charles as a clear and present danger to Trinidad and Tobago. Can you imagine? The only man who is a clear and present danger to Trinidad and Tobago is himself, Rowley himself. Leave MP Charles alone. He's a decent family man. Leave him alone. I have known him for many years, and I can tell you, this is a hard-working person. He loves his country. He loves his family. And of course, he loves his party, and we love him too. Thank you, Rodney. He has served and continues to serve, Rodney Charles, our nation, with pride. MP Charles, as I say, is not the clear and present danger. Rodney is a fierce fighter. He exposes the lies government loves to tell, and that's why they think he's dangerous. Well, politically, he is dangerous for the PNM because he exposes them. Rodney is now famous in the CARICOM, you know. Market vendor in Barbados. Rodney's man, they call him Rodney. Rodney, when you see they respond to you like that, is because they are afraid of you. You have them on the run, Rodney. I saw a little cartoon of Rodney Charles holding up a sign on the way to Parliament with letters of the alphabet. A for Apple, B for Barbados, G for Guyana. I quote Rodney from his press release. Quote from Rodney's press release. Stung by local and regional outrage against his intemperate and undiplomatic remarks this week in Parliament, Dr. Rowley once again attempts to mask his incompetence, appalling lack of diplomatic skills, and inability to hold his own on the global stage by once again diverting attention to a non-issue involving Marine Le Pen. Anybody know who is Marine Le Pen? Like it's only Rowley probably knows this person. Yeah, you know, what are you calling this lady's name here? What she has to do with the meltdown you have in Trinidad, the collapse of the economy of the education sector, everything imploding. Are you talking about Marine Le Pen? Anybody knows her? You could probably Google and find out. It is not Rodney's fault that Keith Rowley is jealous of the other CARICOM leaders. If Rowley is angry because other leaders have achievements and he has none, he shouldn't be jealous. He should actually try to work. I want you to look at a video. Do we have the video, Peter?
It is vaccines. Simply put, when will leaders lead? Our people are watching, and our people are taking.
No people.
I am the Prime Minister of Trinidad and Tobago, and I speak for Trinidad and Tobago.
Provided by His Highness.
Look, I didn't doctor that. That is real. That actually happened, believe it or not. You see how he is a coward when he's abroad. He stutters, he stammers. He's speaking to nobody meeting there. Saddam? Nobody lives there. Nobody was meeting there. Nobody meeting there, speaking to empty rooms. When Mia Motley spoke in front of a packed audience at that same conference, yes? Packed audience of world leaders. Our Prime Minister speaks to nobody. CARICOM leadership and world leaders are ignoring TNT under Rowley's watch. Not just CARICOM, but world leaders. You know, this year the Queen celebrates, the Diamond Jubilee? Platinum, oh wow, yes. Congratulations to her, of course, as a former, we were a former colony, but we are part of the Commonwealth still, and we congratulate Her Highness, Her Majesty, Queen Elizabeth. I raise that for a reason, you see, because I remember when I was Prime Minister, what happened then is happening now. We would have seen senior members of the royal family visiting members of the Commonwealth. And they visited this year the Duke and Duchess of Cambridge, Jamaica, where else? Bahamas, Belize. Where's Trinidad and Tobago in that? Nowhere. When I was Prime Minister, at the time they were celebrating the Jubilee in that particular year, I don't recall the exact year, but we also had a visit from the royal family. Huh? I can't hear you. No, Sadhguru wasn't here either. Not at all. I don't think he may even come. We'll wait and see. Anyhow, so on the world stage, we have become a non-player. We have become not important. And is it simply because we sold the petroleum refinery? No, it cannot be. It is because we have a Prime Minister who has no diplomatic skills, apart from greeting Delcy in secret. No diplomatic skills, and on top of that is a total incompetent Prime Minister. He has no skills whatsoever except buffing skills. He's a master at buffing everybody. And this is a man who says, look, we open up the country, and instead of telling us, look, we're going to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 to get the country going again, what does he say? He buffing you and say, control yourself, behave yourself. Put it again, behave yourself. Good Lord, Prime Minister, the only one who has to behave himself is you. Prime Minister, you behave yourself. Stop buffing people. Tell us your plans and your policies. You cannot continue like this. You only have confidence. In front of your Balijé crew, we saw you there in that meeting, stuttering and stammering. Every promise you have made has failed. Remember Sandals scandals? Failed. Labre dry dock? Failed. Plywood factory? Failed. Toko port? Failed. Toko highway? Failed. Dragon gas deal? Failed. Petrotrin not closing down? Failed. Point Lisas in shambles? Point Lisas failed under your watch? Massive retrenchment, failure again. And listen, you'd like to boast about the greatest salesman. He tells us he is Trinidad's greatest salesman. Well, this salesman got so outsmarted in Houston with the gas prices. Remember that? Which has caused the collapse of Point Lisas. And up to now, they'll watch you in your face and lie that he was the greatest salesman. So don't blame Rodney Charles for your government's incompetence. Rodney, you keep doing what you're doing. You're doing a great job. You're showing this country just how completely unhinged Rowley is. You remember Prime Minister Patrick had warned us, Patrick Manning had warned us, but sometimes people are hardened, they don't listen. Raging Bull, Wajang, and we are seeing that every time he appears in public. So Rodney, you're showing people the light, and it's important for people to see that. And I think that outrageous showdown and meltdown in the Parliament last Wednesday is perhaps the last straw, and should be the shameful last straw by a Prime Minister. I turn now to something else, They like to accuse everybody else. They don't look at what is happening with them. The matters surrounding the resignation, firing of Clarence Rambarat are cause for concern. Now, Rambarat is no whistleblower. Let us make that clear. He has many questions to answer regarding state lands under his tenure. There are many allegations surrounding one of the PNM's ministers, Foster Cummins, surrounding state lands. I had raised this since August 2019. I raised serious questions about a sitting government senator, Foster Cummins, being affiliated, he was then senator, being affiliated with several companies benefiting from lucrative multi-million-dollar contracts. There are 3 companies on the company's registry, and he is affiliated with all of them. Cummins and Associates Company Limited, Pical Services Company Limited, Clydon Enterprises Company Limited. According to documents in the company's registry, Foster Cummins and his wife or partner, Juliet Modest, they were directors and shareholders of Cummins and Associates and of Pical Services. So let's look at some state lands. Carrying 1975 Limited, with a building at the Sanam Exchange Couver, at Exchange Couver, state lands, and Pical. In the news, we heard about fraudulent dealings with state lands. We are hearing that it involves senior officials in government and even some professionals. There are many instances of illegal occupation and land grabbing taking place. I said in August 2019, I raised this issue and I'm raising it again. I raised the issue of why vehicles were parked up there at that building at Exchange Couver, parked up on a piece of land that belongs to the state, most likely Caroni 1975. And these vehicles were belonging to Pical, the company that Foster has his affiliation with. At the time when I raised it, a high concrete wall was constructed to clearly prevent the public from seeing what was taking place in that compound. Tonight, I am again asking, Prime Minister, are there any vehicles belonging to Pical Services being parked up there at that state land at Exchange Couver? Is Pical Services the owner or tenant of that piece of land? Who currently occupies and manages the building owned by Caroni 1975? Does Pical Services Limited have any interest in the land and in the building? And I asked Foster, do you know anything about this? And I asked again, was Rambarat fired or was he forced to resign? Was Rambarat fired or was he forced to resign? We'll come to that and we share, as Mr. Jack Warner used to tell us, not tonight, another night. Was a former PNM minister giving away lands to family and was a relative of that minister collecting payment to help persons to get state lands? Was a former PNM minister giving away lands to family and was a relative of that minister collecting money, payment to help persons to get state lands? And whilst we ask these questions, I would also ask if anyone in the government ever heard of Top Mark. I say no more. Do your research. Top Mark was a former minister, aided and abetted by one of his relatives, collecting payments, bribe, corruption, to give out state lands. That too, we should talk more of on another night. As I close tonight, I want to just briefly mention, why is the government delaying the Commission of Inquiry into Paria? Why? Why? Is it to save and protect his friend, the husband of the Speaker of the House, Newman George? Over a month has passed since those tragic events at Paria, where 4 divers lost their lives. The public is no closer to learning the truth about what happened that day. It is totally unacceptable that while Rowley continues to drag his feet over what was the worst industrial disaster in 40 years, his close friend, Newman George, he's still at that post, chairman of Paria. It is crystal clear the board and the management still have their jobs. When you say you're doing a commission inquiry and yet to start, I think the question was asked by our MPs in Parliament, not started. He could not give a date. They could not give a date. When will it start? It is clear that perhaps Rowley is more interested in protecting, as I said, his friend than getting an answer to these tragic deaths. So please, Prime Minister, stop putting the families through more pain. Let them have their closure. Let them get answers that they deserve. And again, I call upon you, government and Rowley, to tell us who will pay the legal fees of the families of the victims of that tragic incident. You will be paying your lawyers millions of dollars, those assigned to the Commission of Inquiry, and everybody else that you bring in. Who will pay for these poor families who are suffering? They've lost their breadwinner. In the case of the 4 persons who died, as a breadwinner. And in the case of the survivor, also a breadwinner, but now can't work, and medical expenses. Who is going to pay for their legal fees? I asked it before, no answer, I'm asking it again. Is there more I can say? Yes, there is a whole fiasco about crime. MP Charles brought the motion in Parliament on Friday, private motion about escalation in crime and so on. And this hypocrite, Fitzgerald Hines, stands up there to lie in our faces about every single answer he gave. He lied about the fact, he said, the UNC will not support legislation. Lie, you hear lie? That is lie. He lied. Don't encourage me. Brian, don't encourage me. Lied. I read out the list, Adam had prepared a list for me of all the legislation we did pass. About 10 pieces of legislation. Yeah. We supported them. We gave them the special vote that they needed, and he lies there in the Parliament, bold-faced, to tell us UNC will not support the legislation. And when they came with the anti-gang law, which hands up to Friday saying we did not support, when the records will show clearly we did give that support. Faris, then AG, what did he say? We know every gang member. There are over 400. We know where they live. We know their addresses. And once we pass this, we're picking them up. Picking them up tomorrow. Just pass it. Well, we gave it a pass. How many did you pick up? 0. Not 1. How many? So lies in the Parliament. So you say we didn't support the legislation. I read out the list we did support. Okay? Then you have the legislation, so what's the problem? What is the problem? And that's why I said the UNC not taking no blame for the crime situation. Because under our watch, crime went down. And I want you to put up the graph, please, Peter. Look at this graph. Every time the PNM is in power, crime goes up. Can you see the yellow is, of course, the mustard. That's us. And the red is the PNM. Can you see that? Look at the dip in the crime figures when we were in office, 10 to 15. And now, under the PNM, over 3,000 murders. See that? Thank Kevin for preparing the graph for us. Thank you. The graph is very graphic. It says more than words and paints that picture well. So anyone could watch that graph, and you know clearly once the PNM is in power, crime goes up. In Parliament on Friday, I said, we should examine why is that. If we could get an answer to that question, it could help us maybe to solve the crime. But they're totally incompetent. They have no video, no vision, and no mission. There's a second video I want to show to you, where Rowley said the yardstick we will use to measure security is how you feel. He said that in 2015. Can we get that video up, please, guys?
And the government cannot play politics with crime, trying to convince us that all crime has gone down, when you know you don't feel that way. The yardstick that we will use to measure our success in crime fighting is how you feel about your security.
As the one with the overarching responsibility for the national security arm of Trinidad and Tobago is to ensure as best as is humanly possible that citizens of Trinidad and Tobago feel safe and secure. First and foremost, and by that measurement, you are a failure.
No, my duty is not to ensure that people feel safe and secure.
In his own words, the Minister of National Security tells the country it is not his job to make people feel safe. Well, then whose job is it? It can't be ours. They have all the resources. They're just totally incompetent people. So, in conclusion, I join my colleagues and MP Michelle in extending Happy Shouter Baptist Day on Wednesday. And I'm proud that I had a good part to play in that. I'm proud that the UNC takes parentage of the public holiday, the Shouter Baptist Day. It was under Mr. Pandey that the public holiday was given in recognition of a great movement and a great group of persons in our country. So I'm very proud I had that part to play. And I'm also very proud, as Minister of Legal Affairs at one point in time, that I was responsible for the deed to give the Baptist community the lands up at Maloney. And I'm very proud that it was our government, again under Mr. Pandey, we gave the first ever Shouter Baptist School in Trinidad and Tobago. And it doesn't end there, because after we gave them the primary school, under my watch as Prime Minister, we gave them the preschool, the ECCE. So long live the Shouter Baptists. They have faced a lot of discrimination and persecution and prosecution in Trinidad and Tobago, but they have continued to grow and become stronger and stronger. So let me remind you, all is not lost. And let us just pay tribute to two icons of our country who have passed away. One is the Hulk himself, Blacks. Condolences to his family and his loved ones. And of course, condolences to the family and loved ones of Dr. Abracadabra. Any of you young enough to remember him? Dr. Abracadabra. So to both of these icons, sons of our soil, we extend condolences to their families. So to you, UNC family and friends, all is not lost. For as long as we have breath in our lungs and God in our hearts, the fight is far from over. Together, we must retake our country and transform it to what it is meant to be. We will work together as one people. We will work together as one party to build a better and brighter future for all. I repeat the clarion call of others. Rowley, be warned, we are coming for you politically and legally. We are coming for you, and we will not rest until we legally, politically take you out of office. We will not rest. We will not rest. Be ready. Be ready, I tell you. It is coming sooner than you think. Be ready, UNC family, friends, the UNC Army. Get down to the ground and now. This will come sooner than you think. And Rowley, look out for your own members. Stop looking for Kamala everywhere and the UNC. Look out for your own MPs sitting with you on that bench, because they are coming for you as well to take you out. God bless the UNC. God bless the people of Trinidad and Tobago. And God bless the great party we belong to, the UNC. Thank you all and have a great night.
Never let your problems get you down. Stay focused and hold your ground, because what will kill you should make you stronger. So my problems is like steroids, boy. I get my doses from all kinds of sources, and all of them still can't kill me now. You see, as them sink me under ISO, ride out the storm, them just like a boat. So as the box me down, so I get up. They have to wonder how others get up. And every crack I see, I just see through. And by the help of God, I just get through. I just won't stop. I feel like Hulk. Move any mountain, I trample any building like Hulk. Man better than monster. Dismantle any structure, boy. Trample them, trample them, trample them, trample them. Rip up my shot and mash up my cheese and step on my problems. Then what we gonna do? Trample them, trample them, trample them. Kick out my problems, kick out my problems. Trials and testings does come before blessings, but we have to be patient, yeah. Weeping and mourning in the night, but joy in the morning. But we just have to endure. You see, God, the way no night come, so you don't really need to lie down. Them say what goes around comes right back around. I go wait until my time come. So from sun up straight to sunset, you could catch I bus in a sweat.